We'd like to ask you a question.
If we lived in a country in which our immigration system had failed for 30 years, what would it look like?
Migration last year, the highest on record.
We have never seen anything quite like this.
We have no way of knowing exactly how many people came to the UK over the last 3 years.
Immigration would be high, but so would the number of job vacancies.
Wages would be suppressed by an influx of cheap labour.
The pace of change would be so fast that social trust and cohesion would fray.
Housing costs would spiral as demand massively exceeds supply.
Public services would be under strain from the rapid and unplanned increase in demand.
Sound familiar?
In 1997, net migration was just 47,000, but in the year since we've had mass low-skill migration to the UK.
By historical standards, these numbers are extreme. In the 2 decades up to 2020, immigration added 7 million to the UK population.
We need to have an honest conversation about what is happening.
In the 25 years up to Tony Blair's election in 1997, cumulative net migration was 68,000. In the next 25 years, to 2022, it was at least 5.9 million, almost 100 times the previous 25 years.
1.2 million people arrived in the UK last year.
That means 1 in 60 people living in the UK today only arrived in the last 12 months.
Of the migration that we've had from outside Europe over the last 5 years, only 15% was primarily for work.
Only 1 in 10 of the visas issued in the year to June 2022 were for the health and social care visa route.
Over the 20 years since 2001, the UK population increased by 8 million, of which nearly 7 million was due to immigration.
That's the equivalent of the combined populations of
Birmingham, Manchester, Belfast, Cardiff, Edinburgh, Glasgow, Leeds, Leicester, Liverpool, Newcastle, plus Peterborough, Ipswich, Norwich, Luton and Bradford.
According to the government's own analysis, immigration between 1991 and 2016 boosted English house prices by 21%. To keep up with the current level of immigration, we need to build 515,000 new homes in England alone, the equivalent of building a new city the size of Cardiff every year.
1 home would have to be built every 5 minutes, night and day, just to cope with the record levels of immigration to England. That's simply not possible. For the last 30 years, government after government has been elected on the promise to bring immigration down, only to do the opposite.
And poll after poll after poll shows that the overwhelming majority of the public want to see immigration sharply reduced. This isn't a party political issue, it's something that the overwhelming majority of people agree on.
I think now is the time to make the argument for controlled migration.
To manage and control immigration, we've introduced what's called the Australian-style point system, and that means you can't come into the country unless you've got a skill to offer.
And I believe that will mean net migration to this country will be in the order of tens of thousands each year, not the hundreds of thousands every year that we've seen over the last decade. I resigned as Immigration Minister because this dishonesty can't go on. We're repeatedly told that our current levels of immigration are an economic necessity.
But that is not true. A lot of the people who have come here either work in very low wage jobs or they don't work at all, and over their lifetime quite a lot of them will actually take out more in public spending than they pay in tax.
You know, people don't arrive with a house, a mile of road or a hospital bed.
A lot of these stocks of infrastructure have been built up over a long time, and so although people can work here, it does put pressure on our infrastructure and pressure on our public services too.
So we've written a report that sets out how we finally take control of migration and bring numbers back down to the tens of thousands.
So what we want is a more selective system. We want to keep the best and brightest coming here, but we want to reduce mass low-wage, low-skill immigration and take the pressure off of our infrastructure and the pressure off of public services. We've done the work on this. It can be done.
This is the change Britain desperately wants, and it's a change we need.